Hello and welcome into another live stream. New York Jets versus the Miami Dolphins on Black Friday, the first ever Black Friday game in the history of the NFL. Are we excited? What is going on? We are going to try to have some fun today. Let's first shout out you guys in the chat hanging out with us today. Things you love to see. Dakota says Jets 40 to Dolphins 17. Dakota, I wish I shared that kind of confidence. Merkel Life also says 38 to 20. I wish I was that confident. And YY says let Tim boil. That is hilarious. Remember, it's let Russ cook, right? That was the whole thing. Let Tim boil is really freaking funny. And I hope that he does boil and put up a big performance today. That would be good. I want the Jets to pull off what would be truly a very surprising win over the Miami Dolphins. We start with some pretty big news out of the day. The New York Jets will have Allen Lazard inactive. He will not be active for this game. He had another drop last week. Allen Lazard, who signed a $44 million contract in the offseason, dropped his seventh pass of the season last week, 20 catches for 290 yards and 1 touchdown. He has been really, really bad this year. Last week, they activated Jason Brownlee, and that was the first sign of, okay, maybe some things to come, maybe less Allen Lazard. And he was utilized just as much, but really, if you look at it, was not very good, unfortunately. So maybe this is the week finally that Jason Brownlee comes in and gets some significant reps. I would say a couple things. Garrett Wilson, Xavier Gipson in the slot, Jason Brownlee on the outside is going to be the Jets starting trio, which if you told me that in July, I'd have said you're insane. And that's where the Jets end up. Good news, we got V-Man in the chat, and he says Linus says 37 New York Jets, C Mammals 0. Linus is getting into the good stuff, I fear. He's broken into the coquito already, I'm assuming, V-Man. I hope you had a good holiday yesterday, V-Man. And there's more than just the Allen Lazard news as well. You also have no Mekhi Becton in this game. I'm sorry that you'll be at work. GMs in land. I was trying to minimize one. Jets felt Mekhi Becton going throughout the week wasn't word salad going throughout the week. Ankle injury, not crazy serious. Some pessimism built yesterday. He had a workout this morning, didn't feel great coming off that, so inactive. Another blow. As Brian Costello said, look for Carter Warren to start. See, that's a little bit, I will say that is slightly surprising for me. And the reasoning behind it is really because you would have thought that at some point they would have gone back to Dwayne Brown, which this is the last week that he could be activated off the roster. They did that. They waited to the 11th hour. He could still be inactive today, although he, has been added to the 53-man roster. So we'll see. Let's get into super chat. First one comes from Hennessy Heisman. Thank you for your support, Hennessy. Always a great one in the chat. Says, how does Hackett do without Zach at quarterback? Interesting, because when you look at it this year, they have been the two biggest talking points, it seems like, anyway, right? Nathaniel Hackett and Zach Wilson. Whose fault is it? And I don't necessarily think the game plan is going to change all that much. I would expect them to try to get the ball out of his hands very, very quickly. I would expect them to throw a lot to Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson is going to have a bunch of targets. He's been a target hog the last few weeks, and not a bad thing, by the way. And when you look at this Jets wide receiver core, it's in a tough spot today with two undrafted rookie free agents starting in this game, more than likely. So I don't think it's going to be anything crazy different. My optimism for this Jets offense isn't crazy high. I think they score somewhere between 13 and 16 points is going to be my guess in this one. Chuck, he's a member of the channel. Chuck, thank you so much for your support. If you want to become a member of the channel, you could do so down below, right next to the subscribe button. There's a join button. He says 21-7 Jets. I would be thrilled with the 21-7 win. The Miami Dolphins, I think, will be able to score a little bit. Not that this Jets defense isn't good. They are. They're a very, very good unit. I think we might see something similar to what you got last week up in Buffalo, where the defense holds strong for a while. As Hennessy says, I want to see the Q stiff arm again, getting Tyreek right in the face. That was a good one. But my concern is that if the offense is really struggling to do anything at all, then the defense is kind of going to have to be over aggressive again, like what they were last week against the Buffalo Bills. And they tried to make two big plays and it backfired. The first was you saw CJ Mosley try to knock the ball out, like punch the ball out on Stephon Diggs on third down. And instead of it being like 4th and 5, it ends up being a 4th and 1. They go for it. They get a touchdown. And then the other long play, the long touchdown, Sauce Gardner was in cover 3, tried to jump the route. He thought he had safety help over the top from Jordan Whitehead. Whitehead was late getting over. Big play happens in a negative way. So, again, unfortunately, we've seen the defense at times try to be aggressive, and I get it from there. Like when your offense is that bad, they're going to try to create big plays and create turnovers. It's something they've done naturally this year, but it's gonna be a tough one today. I'm worried. I'm a little bit nervous. Let's see. We got GM's GM's Inland Empire, I'm gonna say, or GM's Inland Empire 2. It's time for Warren to build up experience. I didn't think he was that bad last week. I know the PFF numbers didn't look great for Carter Warren last week, but it felt like he wasn't abysmal. Like, I don't know. We've seen guys come in and look worse. I thought Max Mitchell, to be honest with you, looked worse in that game against the Buffalo Bills than what Carter Warren looked like. And, we'll see if he gets the go. As of now, the Jets haven't put. Oh, yep, they just did 5 minutes ago. Excuse me. So let's pull this up. Let's do it. Let's talk about it. Let's pull up the inactives list. Allen Lazard, Mekhi Becton, Austin, Sam Eguavoen, Carl Lawson, Michael Carter II, and Zach Wilson is inactive as the emergency quarterback. So you have both Dwayne Brown active and Carter Warren active. Sorry, I didn't mean to minimize that. Allen Lazard and Mekhi Becton are the two big name ones. Michael Carter, unfortunately, with the injury, you felt that one coming. Zach Wilson, you knew was going to be the emergency quarterback. Carl Lawson's been inactive now for a little bit. So really not too much of a surprise there. Let's go to Dom C. He has a super chat. Dom C, appreciate you. Make sure to follow along with Dom C, both on Twitter or X, whatever they're calling it now, and on YouTube. Game plan chock full of 13 and 22 personnel. Honestly, to have a chance, you got to win the time of possession game and keep Miami off the field. Yeah, so this would be a time to get Breece Hall going, right? He hasn't had really a crazy productive game in the run game since going back to probably Denver. Against the Giants, he didn't put up big numbers. And there were a few games recently in the run game where his yards per attempt was way down. And I think a lot of it has to do with, other teams stacking the box and kind of knowing what's coming. And, he's been effective as a pass catcher out of the backfield. So I would totally expect to see that again today. I think he's someone who's probably going to have 5 catches or so in this game, maybe more, which that sounds crazy. Like, how is the running back going to have 5 catches? But when you look at the rest of this New York Jets receiving core and tight end core that they're putting out there, like everything, I think Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, and Breece Hall are going to be the ones who are most active pass catchers in this offense today. And they do have to keep the Miami offense off the field because, again, like Michael Carter, let's go back to this for a second, the inactives. Michael Carter being inactive is a really big loss in this game. He is a very, very good slot corner. And Brandon Echols is someone who I like as depth, but not nearly on the same level as a Michael Carter. And Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, with their speed, they can move around all the formation and get mismatches. So I think we see a big play to one of those two guys. I'll say Tyreek because he's just put up monster numbers this year. I think we get a big play from Tyreek going up against Brandon Echols. And a big reason for that is because there's no Michael Carter this week. But I agree with Dom C. I think we're going to see a lot of multiple tight ends on the field out there, which is 13 and 22 personnel. Sawyer says Cobb. Oh, no. So Randall Cobb is active. Yeah, that's a great point. Should pull that up. Randall Cobb is activated today for the first time in a few weeks. So maybe Randall Cobb back in the mix for Timmy B. Now, I could give you the positive side or the negative side on this. The negative side on this is that he's been pretty bad and has been, playing when he's been out there on the field. His snap count was way too high for any of our likings. But on the positive side, he knows the Nathaniel Hackett offense. And if, this offense is about timing, those two have no excuse not to be in rhythm because they are the two on the roster with the most experience in the system. So that's a great point. Lynchpin says, need to start Tyler Conklin in fantasy. Any chance he is a big component of a Boyle-led offense? Unfortunately, we don't get him any points for batted down Hail Marys. LOL. Yeah, I think, honestly, yes. I don't hate that. I mean, is he someone who I'd be comfortable with running out there as my every week tight end? Probably not. But he's put up outside of last week, right? Last week he didn't have much production. But the few weeks before that, he was putting up a bunch of catches, and especially if you're in a PPR league where you're getting points for catches. I mean, the last few weeks prior, he only had one catch on one target last week in Buffalo. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm reading this backwards. 2 catches on 3 targets in Buffalo, but he had 7 catches on 7 targets the week prior, 6 and 6. And 66 yards and 70 yards. If I had to just throw a flat out guess, I'm going to say he's targeted 6 times, has 4 catches and like 45 yards, which again, not phenomenal numbers, but you get a few points for those catches. Joshua Hall says tank for May. I don't know how anyone expects them to get up that high. I mean, if you look at, like, if we want to just even for a second to, entertain this idea that the Jets should tank, they have 4 wins already. So if the season ended today, they'd have the 10th pick in the draft. But you would have to have a first or second overall pick, more than likely, to draft to draft Drake May, because Drake May and Caleb Williams are going to go 1 and 2. Even if the Jets lose out, are they going to get much higher than, I don't know, maybe best case scenario 5th? I don't think they're getting one. I don't think they're losing out. And number 2, I don't think they would, even if they did lose out, you're not getting up high enough to draft someone of that caliber. Plus, I am a believer that they should add for something to help the 2024 offense for Aaron Rodgers. So I would go offensive line. I'd go best offensive lineman available. If Dom C's in here, I'm sure he could tell us who the best offensive lineman available could be at that point. But offensive line or wide receiver, my preference being offensive line, but I'd be in on receiver potentially as well. But I think, you have the worst offense in football right now. Instead of using a draft pick that you're hoping is going to come in and start for you in 2026, maybe let's do something for 2024. Bradley says Rodgers had issues in Green Bay because them taking quarterback instead of weapons for a Super Bowl will push. I don't want them to go down that road. Right? Like, this is what, and I'm not saying you completely ignore quarterback forever and like that's it. That's not what anyone is saying here. If they wanted to take a late round, 4th round swing on a quarterback, you have them sit for a couple of years, that's completely fine. But you can't bring in Aaron Rodgers, right, which you did last year, obviously, or for this year, and him get hurt, him come back this year and be like, oh yeah, we're going all in with Aaron Rodgers, and be like, well, actually, no, we're not. We're going to have our offense that probably is going to need 2 new tackles, at least 1, but maybe 2, and doesn't have a wide receiver 2 on the roster, and be like, nope, we're going to pass on either drafting a wide receiver or an offensive lineman, and instead draft a quarterback who's going to maybe see the field in 2025 or 2026. It's stupid. You can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I get it. When people want a quarterback to sit behind Rodgers or whatever and not have him play right away, that's fine. But it doesn't have to be a first round quarterback to do it. I don't agree with that. Hennessy says Jets probably select offensive tackle in round 1. That's what I would do. That's what I would do as well. Hater says, agree with your assessment regarding offensive tackles last game. Warren looked better pass blocking than Mitchell after watching all 22. That was my takeaway as well. And I know, like, grading wise from PFF, it didn't come out that way, which I don't put much stock personally into their grades. There are some stats that they have that I like, that I use when looking at, I think some of their advanced stuff is interesting, but the straight up grades I don't really put much stock into. But yeah, I thought both eye test watching the game live, and then also on top of that, when you were getting the all 22 or just some of the clips coming out, it looked like Carter Warren actually held up okay. I'm not saying he was stellar and that's it, he's the left tackle of the future. No, that seems silly, but I thought he had a much better game than Max Mitchell did. Truly. Dakota's in here with his confidence. I like this. This is different for me because I don't really have this confidence right now in this Jets team. I hope they prove me wrong. I would love to be proved wrong. I want this team to win, which is it seems crazy because it feels like, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but it very much so feels like there's a portion of Jet fans will say that is just waiting for Tim Boyle to do something so bad and say, see, I told you so. It's just so bizarre to me. But defense will blast Miami. We'll challenge these punks today at Jet Life. I hope it's a tight game. The spread's a 9.5 point spread. When I did the pick segment with Joe Maniello. Right now, we'll see if the line changed at all. No free plugs, but you could, the line 9.5 is the line. So, Vegas is expecting a double-digit win for Miami, and unless the Jets offense does something drastically different this week, it was 13, 6, 12, and 6 points in their last 4 games. Joshua Hall says, at the very least, just cut Zach Wilson and get some vets on the O-line. Rookie O-linemen take time to develop. And then we get Momo chimes in. AVT and Becton didn't need time to develop. I don't necessarily think that's the right way to look at it, Josh, because we've seen linemen come in and be good right away, even from this team. As Momo said, AVT and Becton. Becton's best season was as a rookie. And if you go back to the 2006 draft, where they took DeBrickashaw Ferguson and Nick Mangold, those guys came in right away and were impact guys and were, 10 plus year Jets and, the forefront of one of the best offensive lines in modern NFL history in 2008, 9, and 10. So I don't agree with that, to be honest with you. And yeah, sometimes it takes offensive linemen a little bit. Andrew Thomas is a good example of that for an offensive lineman who struggled early on in his career and then improved. But if we've seen the Jets for the last 2 years go through, I can't even tell you how many different offensive line combinations and how many different offensive linemen. That has to be the focus. That has to be that and wide receiver. Pretty much improve this offense has to be the focus. I don't care about adding another edge rusher. I don't care about adding really anything else on the defense. I'm sure, like Jordan Whitehead's a free agent. Maybe you have to find a way, to bring in another safety, or like, what do you do with CJ Mosley's contract? Is he restructured? Is he cut? Like, there's some questions on the defense, but pretty much it's, let's try to get as much of this defensive core back as human, in the mix for 2024 as humanly possible. Run it back with Thomas Morstead and Greg Zuerlein on special teams. And let's try something to fix this offense in 2024. I wish I had a better answer. Little J08. How can this offensive unit stay so incompetent for so long? I don't know. Pretty much my entire life, as a fan of the New York Jets, their offense has just been really not good. Like, even in their best years, right? So the best 2 years of my Jets fandom was 2009 and 2010. They had an okay offense. They were 17th in points in 2009 and 13th in 2010. 2015, they were 11th in points, 10 in yards. So they're pretty close to a top 10 offense in 2015. So that's probably the closest that we've seen. But well, here's some where the Jets offense is ranked in points in my Jets life. So let's pull this up. This year, 30th. Last year, 29th, 28th, 32, 31, 23, 24, 30. A good year, 11. But then 2014, 28, 29, 28. A few good years in a row here. 2008, obviously, pretty good with Favre, but 25, 18, 29. The 2004 Jets, a good team. That's like one of the first years that I got into the Jets, 17th. So like average offense, 23. You have to go back really to 98 for the first time they had a truly like awesome offense. That's terrible. Dakota, okay, you're speaking my language a little bit more. 17-14. Yeah, if the Jets are going to win today, I think that's probably the most likely route. I don't think they're going to get into a shootout like you had earlier, right? I think your initial prediction was back up here at 40-17. Dakota, appreciate you as always, my friend. That's awesome. But 17-14, yeah, sign me up for that. Yeah, and I don't look. Charlie says Will McDonald has been showing some burst in the limited opportunities he's gotten recently. Still feel like he may become dominant. I think there's a good chance we see a second year leap from him, similar to what we saw from Jermaine Johnson. Right, as a rookie, Jermaine Johnson really didn't have that much of a role. It was. I want to pull up the exact number of sacks. I believe if it was 2.5 as a rookie, it was, and his snap percentage was 34%. This year, he is playing 65% of snaps, and he has 5 sacks in 10 games. Probably going to finish with, what do we think, 8, 9 sacks this year. Will McDonald currently has, let's pull this up now. Does he have a sack yet this year? Half a sack, but he's been around the quarterback, I would say, the last 3 weeks. I've noticed him significantly more. He's only playing 16% of snaps, which is low, but I think his snap count definitely goes up. Mr. Wholesome says, no Black Friday shopping for you, Matt. I actually, my girlfriend Taylor and I spent the morning Black Friday shopping online. I did pretty good. I think I got pretty much everyone that I need to get. I'm an online shopper. I'm an anxious person to begin with, but it's in big crowds on Black Friday. I think I went to the mall once on Black Friday. It was a long time ago, but I hated it. It was a terrible experience. But over the last at least 5 years, usually my Friday routine for Black Friday is just finding deals to get Christmas gifts for family and friends. So that was my move today. Yeah, Hennessy's dropping in the 40-17. Hater goes, this roster is too good to go 4-13. In my opinion, tank talk is ridiculous. If offense could just be bad, we will win 2 more games. If offense could be 25-27, we win more than 2. Just saying. Yeah, and that's honestly, I totally agree with that, Hater. And I think looking at this Jets schedule, I think they're going to find a way to win a couple more games. And again, like 4-6, you can hold out. Oh, if you win out or go, I don't know, 6-1 in your last 7 games, and if Rodgers is back, maybe they make the playoffs. But I'm not even talking about that. Like if you just go up, looking at the rest of their schedule, I'm going to minimize your comment just so because it's cut me off a little bit here. Atlanta stinks. Washington stinks. Those are 2 teams you have at home, Atlanta and Washington. And and New England stinks. Can they win any of these, like any of their final 7 games here? They could win any one of these games because of how good their defense is. And they could also lose any of these 7 games because of how bad their offense is. You would just have to think by law of averages, they're going to stumble their way into a couple more wins, at least. If right now, gun to my head, I think they probably are 7-10. at the end of the year. That's going to be my guess. But it could be as much as, I would say, as high as 8 and 9. I think it would be a best case scenario, right? A 4-3 finish. Or maybe if Aaron comes back, right? That changes things for the last 3 games. But, and at worst, I think they're 6 and 11. I still think at worst they find their way to a couple more wins. Yeah, Jingle Dub says Black Friday shopping is absolutely horrifying. Yeah, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, to be honest with you. Tickets next week against Atlanta is going to be like $5. Yeah, I can't see myself trying to make my way out to another Jet game this year. One, because I mean, just my own personal preference. I prefer to take in these games from home anyway. I think football is a better experience on TV than in person. But with that said, I've said it a million times on here, but I like going to 1, maybe 2 games a year for the atmosphere. I love the tailgate. I love getting to meet up with people in the parking lot before the game. Usually get to see Ryan and Green Bean, who, I see them every single week virtually, and we're, genuinely in real life, like close friends, but I don't get to see them ever. So it's good to see them. And like that aspect of it, I like, but to do that every single week, like, I don't know how people travel to the stadium and sit there for 3 games, and usually they lose, and then travel back home. It takes all day. It's not good. So I would guess it's going to be very cheap though. Daniel, our resident Dolphins fan. Daniel, what's going on? He says McDaniel just gave the Jets an early Christmas present. A-Chain inactive. McDaniel's overprotectiveness is going to kill us. I don't think it's going to matter in this one. Raheem Mostert, I think, is going to have a good day rushing the football against this Jets team. I really do. That would be my, I think Mostert's going to be good, and they're going to try to get the ball out quickly to their playmakers in the passing attack, which is like, again, I'm sure you watching this are like, well, obviously, Matt, duh. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist. I think, to me, there's no reason to rush A-Chain back in this game because I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think it's going to matter. Jigaman Porto, my friend, make sure to follow along with his work as well, all over Twitter and X, killing it over there on social media. His Jets Evening Brew, love it. Knicks Brew, for any Knicks fans, says this is a big test for our defense. As much as I want to win, struggle to see how with our offense. That's where I am too. Really, like, I am gonna pretty much go numb for the next 7 games. Like, to me, unless they work their way back into it, like, right, like, obviously things change on a week-to-week basis, but my plan for at least this game is if they win, okay, cool. If they lose, whatever, kind of expected. But I'm going to be watching for storylines and individual players. Like, one, can we see anything out of Tim Boyle? Does it actually look any different? Does Carter Warren show anything at left tackle? Is Max Mitchell improving? Joe Tippmann, a rookie, right? Like, he's been excellent. Does he continue his excellent play on the interior? What are you getting out of Tyler Conklin? And Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall are still big plays waiting to happen. So there are still things to watch for, but it's definitely more so, at least in my opinion, pretty much at this point, you're just watching for, again, like individual performances and just, I don't know, seeing development from there. J Boy chimes in. Sal looks like we are down 20 during warmups. Does it look that bad? That's unfortunate. Right now, what I am looking at is our guy, QB1, Tim Boyle. Apparently, some people on Twitter said that I look like him. So maybe if I turn sideways, his hair's a little more brown, but I have a little more red in it. The reddish brown hair and the stubble and the bigger nose. That sounds about right. I could see it. There's some resemblance. I'll take it. But Robert Saleh, man, it's I feel for him. I know he was out there running the stairs. I was trying to look to see if there was any videos or pictures going around on social media. Not anything that I've seen, but yeah, I'm not surprised. Michael says, if we're going to fail, then we can't win any more games and hope some of the other bad teams win so we get the best draft position. Otherwise, we need to win out and make the playoffs. I don't necessarily think so. I don't think, even if they lost out, I don't think you're getting up any higher than maybe the 5th overall pick. But I think more than likely this team's probably picking somewhere between 7th overall and 12th overall. And this roster, most of this roster is coming back. It's not like they're blowing it up. It's not like in 2020 when we were rooting for losses because you knew that Sam Darnold was not going to be back at quarterback. Adam Gase was not going to be back at head coach. They were going to make changes. So that is a completely different scenario than now, where this is year 3 with this regime. Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh need to show some form of competency and to show some signs of heart that they didn't just roll over and die for the 2nd year in a row. And as he says, Matt is Tim Boyle and Richie is Mike White. I'll take it. I will absolutely sign up for that. The backup Jets quarterbacks and our boy Jake Asman is Carson Wentz, right? Like we all kind of look like that backup quarterback. So there's someone, I'm sure there's, somebody else. Who's Green Bean look like? An old Ryan Fitzpatrick in 20 years, maybe? Kind of look like Tyler Van Dyke. Let's see. Okay. I would take that. That's another guy with like reddish brown hair. Maybe not as much in this one, but let's see. Tyler Van Dyke. I'll take it. Reddish brown hair, little Irish looking guy, fair skin, probably gets sunburned from April through October. Sounds about right to me. JC says, man, I had season for many years. It's the absolute worst experience ever. The traffic, the aggravation in the parking lot, the freezing cold. No thanks anymore. Yeah, look, I get it. I really don't blame you at all. I don't blame anyone who is giving up their season tickets for, a number of reasons. One, the product on the field has been really bad for a long time. 2, for most people, the stadium is a pain in the ass to get to. The stadium's not nice. They raise prices every year despite the team absolutely stinking. Like, I don't get it at all, JC. I really don't, so if you want to give them up, or I have no gripes against any season ticket holder says, you know what? I'm not in it anymore. I don't want to do it. JC follows it up and says, should have never let Mike White walk out of the building. Huge mistake by Joe Douglas. Now, while I will say that Mike White is definitely better than Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, and probably Trevor Siemian also, the reason why I don't really harp on letting Mike White go that much is because if you look at his tenure with the Jets, how many injuries did Mike White sustain? He had to come out of like 70% of his starts. So if he was the backup quarterback, I don't know if I want to add or have a backup quarterback who is also injury prone. So like if you were going down, then it's pretty much almost an automatic. At some point, you're going to have to see QB3. Mike White obviously had the cracked ribs last year. He got hurt in his first year against the Bengals, came back into the game, got hurt against Indianapolis, had to leave that game. There were times, really both years that he was with the Jets, that he had to, come out of games and miss time. So while I agree that he is definitely a better quarterback and would be a better option right now to be starting than anyone else that the Jets currently have, I think his injury concerns are definitely a reason to be apprehensive to bring him back. Do I start Miami defense or Titans? Who do the Titans have this week? Let's see. Who are the Titans playing? Is it the Bengals? No, the Panthers. I would probably start the Dolphins because I think Tim Boyle is going to throw interceptions. I think best case scenario, we're looking at like a Tim Boyle, like 2 touchdowns, 2 picks kind of game. Like he's going to go down swinging. He's going to turn the ball over. So I would probably start the Miami defense, as much as that hurts to say, Ricky. This is the one that I said, Jacoby Brissett. I was talking about Jacoby Brissett in April. I wanted him at the trade deadline, after week 1, after week 3. I'm a big Jacoby Brissett fan as a backup. I'm not sitting here saying you sign Jacoby Brissett and he's your starter for 17 games, but a Jacoby Brissett QB2, you could do a lot worse than if Tyrod could stay healthy. The Tyrod Taylor's another example of the type of quarterback that I like, stylistically, who can be a backup, manage the game, not turn the ball over. That's really what you're looking for. Can get the ball into the end zone. Brissett is a really good example of that. At this point in his career, Andy Dalton is another one. I would look to sign somebody at that level as well. Hennessy says, plot twist. We see Mike White come in today. It's possible, right? Like, that was something that I mentioned for the Miami Dolphins. Like, it makes sense why he wanted to go there as a backup for a few reasons. One, he's from the area, so that makes sense, obviously. But number two, in Tua's first 3 years, he's missed time. So, like, just again, if you're going by odds or chances, right? Like, there's obviously a chance that he being Tua could get hurt and miss time. So, yeah, it probably wouldn't be shocking if Mike White came in this game. Bino it says, O'Leary, my guy, Boyle 300 plus yards, 3 TDs, Jets win 28-21. Let's get nuts. Why not? Right? Nobody thought Tim Boyle was coming out here and gonna, run up a crazy score against the Cincinnati Bengals a couple years ago. Sure, why not? Let's get creative. Let's do something fun. I'm all in on it. I don't think it's very, very likely, but you never know, I guess. Oh, goodness gracious. All right. We got a picture of, look at this, the things you just absolutely love to see. Oh, I'm sorry. I stopped sharing my screen by accident here. Let's bring up these two guys. It's important to spend time with family during the holidays. Quinnen and Quincy, man, they are the two just absolutely unbelievable studs for this defense. Things you just absolutely love to see. Peter in the beautiful Hudson Valley is hanging with us. He goes, imagine, if you will, a world where it's Tim Boyle versus Mike White because the Jets D-line knockout Tua. Yeah, that's what Hennessy's saying there, man. It's not that crazy of a thought. It really isn't that crazy of a thought. It could absolutely happen. Johnny Danks is in here. What up, Matt? He says, what's up, Johnny? Hope you're doing well. We got a little under an hour to kick off. I'll be on for probably another half hour or so on Green Bean. Green Bean is at the game today. That poor Green Bean. He is at the game today, but you have Jeremy from Jets Chaos running the program over on that channel. So I'll be on at halftime. I'll be handing off to them. They're going to probably hop on around 2:30. So that's roughly the time that I'm going to be hopping off here. Thomas Smith says black uniforms today. Yes, the Jets are going with the black uniforms. I like the all black uniforms. I think it looks good. And the Jets tweeted out a picture of the helmets, and it does look really nice. So I will pull it up. I'm a fan of the black uniforms, right? But also at the same time, I think the Jets missed a massive opportunity, or the Jets and Dolphins, really, the NFL in general, because this is an elite matchup. That's by far the Dolphins' best uniform combination, their throwbacks. And this is the Jets' best uniform combination, the legacy uniform. So from a football aesthetic wise, I think these two would look so much better than whatever, white uniforms the Dolphins are going to wear with the Jets all black. But I will say I do like the all black. Black on Black Friday makes sense. I'm sure Gunny's going to be there as well. I didn't say his name, but I'm assuming that Gunny's going to be in there as well. I don't know, but I'm assuming that he is going to be. Fears Grim says we are 2-1 in those uniforms, I think. I don't think so. Last year they were 1-2 in them last year. They beat Chicago, which was fun, but they lost to the Patriots and the Jaguars while wearing that uniform. The year prior, in 2021, they won the Mike White Cincinnati game. But then there were a couple others in there that I think they lost. So last year, 1-2, unfortunately. Dakota says all black, my favorite, then the legacy, but the legacy is definitely our all-time greatest unis. Okay, there we go. And again, I like the black uniforms. I think they look nice and it's going to look cool. Oh, here we go. See, let's get Breece Hall coming out of the tunnel in the all black uniforms. It looks good. It looks really good. This is the one time they're wearing it this year. The NFL, aka the No Fun League, has all these rules on what you can and can't wear. So you can only wear alternate uniforms 3 times a year. So the Jets wore the legacies twice, and this is the lone time that they're wearing the black uniforms. But I like it. I think it looks good. Yes, they did. That's right. They beat the Jags in 2021 with them. That's true. So they are probably 2-1 in it that year. I don't remember if they were maybe there wasn't a loss in it, but in 2019 they were wearing their black uniforms in the Trevor Siemian start where he got knocked out and Luke Falk came in. So that one's a loss. They wore the blacks against the Giants in a win. So there's been examples of them wearing it and winning over the years. London says, Timmy 4 touchdowns. Love my Jets. Just had my Sauce jersey on yesterday. Love it. Good stuff, London. How sick would it be if he comes out and throws 4 touchdowns? That would be what? Let's do some quick math here. Not a math guy. 4 out of 6 is 66.7%. Oh, wow. That I should have known that. That is significantly, just reduce your fractions, bud. Point being, that would nearly be the production that Zach Wilson has given you in 10 games in 1. I don't think so. I'm gonna predict 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Dakota says Bengals all black game. Mike White was just never to forget. Yeah, that's one that's going to live in our memories forever, I think. And also him coming back right in the first game against the Bears, and he threw 3 touchdowns in that game, right? Elijah Moore had 1. Garrett Wilson had 2. That was a really good game. That was a fun one. Good stuff. Mike White torched the Bengals. That we'll never forget. Mike White was born. Yep, there we go. Jay Boy says, don't matter what we wear, just win the effing ball game. I'm there. That's obviously best case scenario. Whatever they do, let's just hope they win the game. I don't know. My confidence level isn't crazy high for this one. What did I predict on the pregame? I think, or not the pregame. This is the pregame. I meant the preview. I believe 26-13 Dolphins is where I am right now. He did. He torched the Bears in a hailstorm, but if it was a little bit rainy against the Giants this year, so it's okay that they only scored 13 points in a win. How freaking funny would it be, game experience, as time for Tim to get us to the playoffs? What if, let's just go full what if for a second. The Jets' next 4 games, they have Miami, Atlanta, Houston, and Miami again. What if they go like 3-1 over that stretch, and now you're looking at 7-7 with 3 games to go, and maybe Aaron Rodgers is coming back? Am I going to talk myself into that again? I don't know. I'm not quite at that point yet. Again, I know maybe I'll get myself there. With a win today, I'll buy right back in at 5-6 and be like, all right, just stay afloat. Let's stay afloat. But they have to prove it. Unfortunately, they don't get the benefit of the doubt because the offense has scored 13, 6, 12, and 6 points. And the week prior to the bye, they scored 20 points, and their lone touchdown was when Breece Hall was led into the end zone by the Philadelphia Eagles. Boy, I'm gonna do an Irish river dance on the fish. Sign me up for that. Irish river dance on the fish. That's great. Empire State chimes in. What's going on? Hello, happy Thanksgiving, all. Yes, a happy belated Thanksgiving. Hope everyone had a happy and safe holiday yesterday. Thanksgiving is such a great holiday. Truly one of my favorites. Football, food, drinking, family, loved ones. It's all the best. Why? Okay. All right. We got some time today, and we don't have a ton of chats right now. So we'll go to Jimmy, who says Rodgers is faking the injury. Why? What is the benefit for him or the Jets for him to fake an injury? Like, I'm very curious to see. I'm not anti-conspiracy theory ever, but I don't get the logic behind that one. Oh, okay. JK, easy, man. Okay. I popped him up and he walked it back real quick. Not walked it back, but he was kidding. All right, there we go. JC says, how soon after the season do you think Zach gets cut? Even though needed, still sad. Oh, of course it's sad. Listen, like I wanted the Jets to draft a quarterback when they had the number 2 overall pick. Thought it made sense. Trevor was going 1 overall. I liked Zach Wilson a little bit better than Justin Fields, but I would not have been opposed to taking Justin Fields at number 2. But I will fully admit, I wanted the Jets to draft Zach Wilson. I wanted to give him a chance. Didn't look great his first year. Played a little bit better down the stretch after he returned from injury. Okay, let's see how he carries that into year 2. Year 2 doesn't look good, gets benched. Then they go out and get Aaron Rodgers, and it's like, all right, if you like redshirt him, fine, but just didn't work. You're right. I think he gets cut maybe some point we'll go March. Hey, Matt, Jets 21-10. Breece Hall with 1 rushing touchdown. Garrett Wilson with 2. Nice. Yes, 2 receiving touchdowns and over 110 yards. Breece Hall will have over 100 yards in this game. That sounds really, really positive. I like that a lot. And that's your 2 stars on offense getting, significant points. That's great. Advice to grow a Jets pod and Insta post consistently. The numbers are not going to be there at first, but consistency. And you have to be comfortable doing it to nobody. The numbers aren't going to come right off the bat. Post as much as humanly possible. And you will learn as you do it that it doesn't necessarily have to be right away the most quality of content. It's more about quantity at first, and then you see what works and what doesn't, and then that's when the quality comes. So go quantity first is my best advice. Should I wear my Jets 87 Lavernius Coles jersey? I love Lavernius Coles. That's a great jersey to have. Absolutely. What are your other options for Jets jerseys? But I think that is a fantastic option for you today. Shadow Realm, what's going on, dude? Says 2 musts today. Limit penalties and get the ball when it's on the ground. Yeah, you have to be able to create turnovers in this one. I think you probably need at least 2 to have a chance. And penalties, they've had 7+ penalties for 6 games in a row now. How many penalties did they end up with against Buffalo? Actually, it might have went down a little bit. Do we have penalties? Yeah, they only had 5. It went down a little bit. 5 is better, trending in the right direction. There you go. Rangers up 3-0 on Philadelphia. You beat up on them. My Islanders have them tomorrow. So if you could take care of business today, that's fine. I'll be watching. So I got the Jets at 3, do post-game coverage and everything after that. And then I'll be watching my Islanders in Ottawa. And then they're back home tomorrow against Philadelphia. They're a dirty team, the Philadelphia Flyers. Not to go full hockey talk on the pregame show, but they're a little chippy. I saw Hathaway and Trouba were going at it a little bit earlier. Hey, how about that? The Amazon Prime Turkey picked the Jets. I feel a little bit better now. James says, are we thinking a Tua pick? I'm going to go with a lost fumble instead. I'll say Jermaine Johnson strip sack. How about that? Ryan chimes in, says, sorry, you probably covered this, but why is Lazard inactive? Really just ineffectiveness. It's not injury. It's a healthy scratch. He has 7 drops on the year. He had another drop against Buffalo in the red zone last week. He really hasn't been good, unfortunately. And I wasn't, I wasn't against the signing when they did it in Green Bay. I liked him. I liked his abilities as a red zone threat. He was always someone who, had a bunch of touchdowns, and I was assuming he was going to play with Aaron Rodgers, and I think that plays a little bit of a factor. But penalties, drops, mistakes, he just hasn't been very good. So I think I think it was time. I don't have any ill will, against them for making the call. Salvador says, "I am ready to be hurt again. Sign me up, baby. I'm ready to get hurt again." I like that. Phil Adams says, "How is the Islander in the stream today?" I love it. So yeah, that was a great reply on Twitter, where someone called me Islander in the stream for instead of was it Islands in the Sun? So good. Tony Alexio was talking about his favorite, Strevler. Yep. Lazard not playing. Here's a list. In case you missed it, I'll pull up the inactives again from earlier in the program because I know we probably have some new people in here. So we'll pop up the inactives again. Alan Lazard, Mekhi Becton, Carl Lawson, Michael Carter, and Zach Wilson are the big names. Zach Wilson's listed as the emergency quarterback. No Michael Carter in the slot means that you most likely are going to get Brandon Echols playing in the slot. Also, it's either going to be Dwayne Brown or Carter Warren at left tackle, and Randall Cobb is activated once again. I want to see if any of the beat reporters tweeted anything out about who is expected to start. Both Costello and Connor Hughes seemed to hint that it would be Carter Warren. It wasn't like a definite. It was kind of like that's their thought on what's going to happen, but we'll see. Yeah, this is true. Empire State says Gibson needs to stop fumbling. He looks very unsure of himself anytime he goes to field a punt or a kickoff, which he's an incredibly explosive player. When he has the ball in his hands, he's really, really explosive, but he's had some issue fielding punts and kickoffs this year. Chuck chimes in with the super chat. Chuck, I appreciate you. He's always in here hanging out with us. Big, big, big time supporter. Thank you, Chuck. Josh says, what do you think about making Uzama inactive and promoting Kuntz to the active roster to see what he has? Guy's an athletic freak. I think if it maybe in the final weeks of the year, they'll do that. I'm not against it, but I think it's a little early for something like that. But that's not something that I would, put past this Jets regime to do. I think it would be a wise decision to maybe eventually get to that point, especially when you're struggling that much in the red zone. It really couldn't hurt at this time. Braden, I'm glad you're back, though. He goes, I thought you were on holiday, Matt. Turns out YouTube had to unsubscribe me from everyone except Green Bean and Asman. Crazy. Well, I'm glad to have you back. Make sure to give a subscribe to get back in on the mix. I appreciate you. I always see Braden in the chat. He's always, in here and in the mix. But yeah, man, make sure to subscribe back up again. YouTube does some weird stuff sometimes. Oh, perfect. Just a happy Thanksgiving, Matt. Great show, brother. Chuck, appreciate you, man. Chuck's always in the mix with us, supporting on the Talking Jets show on Tuesdays. Excited to get hopefully Green Bean back this week. So 2 weeks ago, poor Green Bean was sick. He was under the weather dealing with the flu. And then this week, driving back up from Virginia up to be with the fam. And he's at the game today. The poor old Green Bean. We got hopefully the offensive line is Warren or Brown, Tomlinson, Titman, Turner, and Mitchell, because if Turner is at tackle, Lord help us. I believe Xavier Newman is going to be at right guard today. So based on what the beat is saying, my assumption is it's going to be Warren, Tomlinson, Titman, Xavier Newman, Max Mitchell from left to right. Could be Brown, but I think it's going to end up being Carter Warren. Chuck also says, will Mekhi Becton be back this season? So supposedly they're only expecting this to be a 1 to 2 week thing. So I will say yes, but it being a low ankle sprain as opposed to a high ankle sprain is a good thing. Beth Page Chris says, yes, we will pick Tua and those lollipops that he tosses. Listen, I know, giving Tua the business is a pastime we all like to do, but he has 8 picks on the year in 10 games. 8's higher than where he normally is, but guy's got 21 touchdown passes on the season. He's probably going to throw 35 touchdowns this year. He's throwing 293 yards a game, 106 rating. He's been stellar the last 2 years, completing 69.7% of his passes. If he stays healthy and plays 17, he's putting up big numbers. So it's definitely possible to pick him off. I believe he does have a couple of picks against the New York Jets. He's 2-0 against the Jets, but if you're looking at his career splits against the Jets, he is 3-0. It says 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. There we go. Let's hope the Zebras are on our side of this game. Seems unlikely, right? Unfortunately, the Jets more often than not feel like they're fighting an uphill battle when it comes to the rest of the referees in the NFL. It's a good question. The Dolphins blitz rate. Let's do NFL defense blitz rate. That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head. Blitz percentage. All right, let's share this tab instead. We'll go here. So the Miami Dolphins don't blitz a lot. 22.7%. They're towards the bottom. The Jets are the second fewest at 16.9%. So this is a 32, 31, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22nd in the league. They are blitzing at 22.7%. Most in the league is the Vikings, 47.4. That's a lot of blitzes, man. And the Giants are 40.1%. That's expected. And look, Todd Bowles up there, 38.3%. But the Dolphins don't blitz a ton. That's not something that they like to do. Cobb can catch and play quarterback. No bullshit. Yeah, he did in college. It's been a while, but he's probably the Zach Wilson's the emergency quarterback. But if it got to it and they wanted to go real nuts, they could be getting the mix. I got NFL Network on the screen, and Woody Johnson is showing his chain to Mike McDaniel. Great. I'm glad Woody Johnson's showing off his gigantic ass chain to Mike McDaniel. Things you just love to see. Do you know if Dwayne Brown was brought to the active roster? If not, then he goes to season-ending IR. What say you, brother? Yes, he was brought back to the active roster. So he is active. That doesn't mean that he's necessarily starting today, but he is active. Maybe he's an emergency tackle. Oh, yeah, is this true, Bino? Funny thing about Tua, he's actually writing his father made him throw a lefty. That I didn't know. That's crazy if that's true. Wow. Interesting stuff. All right, we got time for a few more in here, so get any last-minute questions in, then we'll hop off, and we'll see you at halftime over on Green Bean's channel, as well as some coverage after the game on that one. I agree with this, by the way. Quincy was JD's biggest steal. Another good one was John Franklin Myers, the guys who were picked up off the scrap heap who end up coming in and doing a really nice job. Yeah, Woody I agree with Hennessy here. Woody is trying too hard to be cool. First the draft phone calls and now the sauce chain. I just go away, please. Woody's a little insufferable. I'm not the biggest Woody Johnson fan, to be honest with you. I think he's kind of out of touch. I don't know. He doesn't have a good read on the room. Predictions on the starting O-line. I'm going to go Carter Warren, Laken Tomlinson at left guard. Center is going to be Joe Tippmann, obviously. Xavier Newman at right guard, and then Max Mitchell at right tackle. That's going to be my guess. Oh, it's true. Google it. There we go. Good stuff, Bino. Thanks for bringing that in. Chuck says, message from Garrett. He is sorry missing past his last game, and he has been practicing his ass off for this game, and him and the team are ready for the Dolphins, and the team is so stoked. That makes me happy. I significantly hope that Garrett Wilson has the game of his life today. He was putting up great numbers before the last game against the Bills. We know, fumbles have been an issue. I would like for him to hold on to the ball. But when you pull up his numbers, Garrett Wilson, 2 catches, 9 yards, but the 4 weeks before that with, again, pretty bad quarterback play, 8 for 90, 7 for 100, 7 for 80, 9 for 93. If he could just get in the end zone, man, he hasn't scored since week 2. And that's not his fault, by the way, not his fault, but it definitely is something. What do you think about Michael Penix? I think he's going in the first round. That I wouldn't take a quarterback in the first round, to be honest with you. I'm going to have to dig a little bit more on these quarterbacks. To me, it's QB2 Drake May, Caleb Williams is QB1, and then there's a bunch of guys clumped together. So I am fully admit that I need probably January, February is going to be really when I ramp up draft coverage. It's not as much as, in 2020 and 2021, those 2 drafts had significantly more knowledge at this point because, one, in 2020, the Jets were going for a quarterback. They were going to have a top pick. And then number 2, the following year, they had 2 top 10 picks during that 2021 season. So a little bit different. The last 2 years now, 22 and 23, haven't been in on draft as much until after the regular season comes to a close. But I do think Michael Penix is going to go in the first round. Tyreek Hill stat prediction going against Sauce and Reed. Well, it's not going to be specifically those 2. He's going to get some work in the slot as well. Hill is going to get his, even against good defenses. He's going to put up, his stellar production. If you look at it this year, he already has 1,200 yards in 10 games. That's freaking nuts. I'll say 7 catches for 99 yards, just under 100. It's time to truly see Hackett's offense when he can truly call his own game, because if he fails, he will be run out of town. No, he won't. I don't agree with that, Albert. As long as Aaron Rodgers here, I think Nathaniel Hackett's going to be here. As soon as Rodgers is gone, Hackett can go with him. Message from Tim: I will throw 3 touchdowns today. That'd be nice. That would be nice. No Q stiff arm today. No Q stiff arm. Jermaine Johnson strip sack, though, is my prediction on the turnover. All right, guys, that is going to do it for me on this pregame. Make sure to head over to Green Bean's channel, as he is, he's at the game, but they're doing the live stream. I'll be over there at halftime. Appreciate you guys hanging out before the game. Hopefully we get a crazy Jets upset win. I'm Matt. Enjoy. I'll catch you next time.